to this week's episode of Running Shorts podcast by Accelerate. We've got a cool international special guest today, Chris Dunn from Scott. So,
hello.
Chris, welcome.
Thanks very much. Subtitles are coming below right now.
So we can't tell Chris is from the northeast.
A little bit.
A little bit. But yeah, if we start with you, your connection to running, kind of how you got into it, what you do.
So I started running probably about 13 years ago now. Just going through some stuff, and the guy I was talking to about it was kind of saying like a good way of getting over things is go running. So I started doing that. And then about 2 weeks after that, one of my mates was starting a running club. I started running with him straight away, and that's the same club as I'm in now. So
class.
Kind of kept going with him all the way through with Run Eat Sleep, and just the first race I did was a trail race. I was already in the outdoors, so I was been working in outdoor shops since I was 16, and at that point I was working for Berghaus, so I was working for a brand, and it was just kind of a natural progression to do trail running a little bit more than road running, and I seemed to kind of enjoy it a little bit more. Never particularly good, so never kind of at the front end of races or anything like that, but definitely felt like I could hold my own a little bit.
As you've been very modest here, you are a good runner.
On the trails, I think it's always easier to kind of give a little bit more on the trails, because at that point the field was tiny. I mean, trail running was 8 people in a car park mainly, and kind of the races were quite small. But now you're getting massive fields of people doing the same races that I was doing 12, 13 years ago. But that was my kind of way into running. About 2 years after that, I started with Scott. So, and as the manager of the running division in the UK, so my running kind of journey went from being the hobby that I did alongside my kind of outdoors work to being my job and everything. And I think with trail running as well, I've managed to keep job and run quite separate, so I don't feel as though... I guess
it could be easy for your hobby and your mental health and all that side to fall into one and the same, which is not what you want.
No, absolutely not. And I think I've met a few reps on the road and stuff who've kind of become disillusioned with either running or working in running, and I've managed to kind of get the balance right by not running too much and concentrating on my job when I need to, and just kind of getting the balance right between the two. But I definitely think the trails is the way to do it, because you're either on your own or with a small group, and then I go to my training sessions with Luke and at Run Eat Sleep, and it's a community that's similar to what you do at Accelerate. There's loads of groups, loads of different abilities, so if you're kind of wanting to chill out, you can chill out. If you want to push, you can push. And there's some results from the weekend at the Great North Run which are incredible. People beating PBs all over the place, and it's really inspiring.
Just a testament to working together with people.
Exactly. And the group when I started was 4 people, mainly in the rain, mainly in the dark, trying to kind of push each other really hard, and it's kind of morphed into this massive group of people who you can pick up with anybody at any point. And I think that's kind of reinvigorated my running a little bit after being a little bit not bored with it, but my times are getting slower, so I'm sort of starting to kind of not enjoy it as much. And I've just realised that it doesn't matter, you can still enjoy all elements of it, and the group's kind of the main thing. And I started it as a solo thing, wanting to just be on my own, not be in a team, whereas now it's
you've got that community pull as well.
Yeah, definitely. And with Scott, I'm 7.5 years in working at Scott now, so it's quite a long period of my life spent just talking about Scott running and the other brands that we do, and it's still pretty exciting to be in this. I know how lucky I am to do it. So
it's good that you've not got too caught up with one and the same as well, which is nice. Do you still run off road then?
Yes.
You mentioned Great North.
So I did
a little bit on the road as well.
Yeah, the Great North Run, living in South Shields, a mile from the start line. As people who may have done the run at the weekend, I don't have to get the metro home, so I don't have all that faffs. And also, there's not much else to do in South Shields on the day. And last year I had a particularly bad run, so on the finish line signed up for 3 more. So I think by the end of the 3rd one, it'll be something like my 15th Great North Run. And I said the other day to my dad, I'll probably finish after that, and he was like, "You're joking, you'll never finish it."
And
I don't do any other road races really, and I think with the Great North Run being so big, there is a bit of a misconception about it, and maybe a bit of like trail snobbery, I think, comes into it to a certain extent. That it's a big race and really commercial, but you know, you can't replicate having 6 deep at the end, people and shouting your name and, you know, all that kind of stuff when you're suffering. So the Great North Run's just got a massive...
It's not quite the same as one person at a checkpoint in a fell race, is it?
Yeah, hoping that they're there. yeah, and even at the end, kind of, you know, well done.
Yeah.
And off you go, even if you finish like first. It's like a pat on the back and maybe a sandwich, or if you get a trophy, it's like a real kind of occasion. Whereas even at the Great, you know, I finished like 20,000th or something, and yeah, you get a little bit of a buzz with just people like encouraging you towards the end. And like I say, when you're feeling rubbish towards the end of a half marathon, to have a little kid try and give you a nice pop when you really don't want one, it kind of does give you a little boost. Just seeing the finishers, like waiting at the end and seeing the people who are kind of taking 4 hours, 5 hours to do this race. A 102-year-old guy did the race at the end.
Oh, you've got to keep going more than 15.
Well, exactly. I've got like quite a few more to go, but it's really inspiring and really cool. So that's the road race that I like to do, and I think I will pick up a few more over the next few years. But trail racing still
where your heart is.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And you guys do it, so I'll have to turn up now and again.
Yeah.
To kind of make an appearance.
Yeah, you've done some cool trail races as well, all over.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Like we went to Switzerland last year, which was super fun.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Yeah, part of the relay team. There's one part of the relay team missing, but I think we did all right, didn't we?
Yeah, we went.
We gave a good account of ourselves. So yeah, like racing in Zermatt is if you're lucky enough to be able to go, it's an incredible event, an incredible place to go,
and the crowds there were the most I've ever seen on that I've raced in a trail race like that.
Yeah, so it's not quite Great North Run levels, but as trail races go, it's the equivalent of doing London Marathon or Great North Run of trail races, and just underneath like UTMB levels of craziness. So it's still quite chilled out. Like you're not struggling to walk up a high street all week, but you still bump into people you'll know from if you're doing loads of trail races around the UK. There's plenty of people over there, and the races go from like 14k, or the VK is 5k.
Fat.
If you just like running uphill like a savage, or you can go up to like a 50k race, and there's loads of different ones in between. So like I did the 14k and then went back.
As you've done quite a few of them now, haven't you?
Yeah. So it's a Scott sponsored race. So it's kind of work and pleasure all mixed in. That's an example of the cool bit of being able to work for a brand. And doing the 14k a couple of times to get a taster for it, and then I did the 32k, which for me is like pushing it really for distance.
It's high as well, like it's you're at altitude, eh?
And doing the relay, which is 3 parts of that race, I did the middle part of the relay, and even when I was running the middle part, kind of going in my head, I'm really happy I don't have to do the last part, having already done like Michelle had to do like the first climb, who's the Martin manager of Scott running in the UK. She did the first part and I did the middle 12k or something, 11k, and then you did the glory,
the downhill bit.
Well, there was a bit of an uphill at the start, but that you took like the glory lap at the end. And racing the Alps is just like a different kettle of fish, because if you did 32k on the hills here, you
could get 1,000, 1,500 meters.
Maybe
a bit more where you are, but not loads more.
Not loads, and 30k there's like 2,000 meters, and that's the mini one. Even the 14k has got something like 1,100 meters of elevation and descent. So, but the trails are super groomed and really nice to run on, so you don't feel as though you're kind of hopping mud or tussocks or any of that kind of cool stuff.
Still, isn't it? It's very different.
Fast. And poles are like on the long one. If you're doing the full thing, 32k poles are like essential, because you'll just get mullered by people from Europe with poles.
I think probably enough reminiscing there as well. But if we go to how you got involved with Scott, so like you say, you've been there quite a while now.
So I was working at Berghaus, like I said, and I was doing retail training. So I basically went around and taught all the stores in the UK about kit and how to use it and how we made it and stuff like that. And I got an opportunity to interview for the UK sales manager for running. And at the time, Scott Running was quite a small thing, but it was up and coming, and I could kind of see where it was headed, which was more trail and less road.
Was it quite road focused at that point, or more so than it is?
Yeah, probably more so than it is now. But there was a trail shoe that they had called the Kinabalu, which was kind of on a lot of feet, and I could see at trail races there was this one shoe basically. And just before our interview, there was a shoe called the Super Track, and I definitely saw that shoe like all over the place. Really distinctive, cushioned with a big lug, and there wasn't much like that out there at the time. So that encouraged us to go for the job, and luckily got it. And yeah, it was kind of at that point a team of one with a team of people in the office, kind of traveling around the country with a van and a load of shoes in the back. And it sounds really not grand, but it was cool, and a big brand. So Scott's a huge brand based in Switzerland, started in America.
How did it start? That's
so
probably
Ed
people might not know.
Ed Scott started with aluminium ski pole. So a lot of people know Scott as a bike brand, but originally it was a ski brand in Sun Valley in America. And then over the course of years they developed other things like motocross boots, ski goggles, all the way into handlebars for Greg LeMond's bike at the Tour de France. And then bike became kind of the main part of Scott, really. And then about 15 years ago, running came in. So when running started, it was road. But one of our athletes, Marco De Gaspari, did the Kinabalu trail race.
Is that mountain runner world champ?
Yeah, that one.
Cool.
With another brand now, but that's by the way. At the time, he was at Scott, and he did the race in a pair of Polani, which was our road shoe at the time, with a trail outsole on, and basically the rocker shape of the Polani shoe really assisted him in going downhill. So at that point, the designer at the time and the developers at the time put a trail outsole on and continued with the rocker shape, which now you'll see in all
Every
brands.
shoe has it, pretty
all
much.
brands, whether it's trail, road, or anything in between, big, small, will have a rocker kind of shape predominantly to the shoes. And yeah, it just assisted him downhill. Meant uphill running was not easy, but felt easy because you were kind of you're pushing up and then pushing down as well. But crucially on the flat section, so a road section at the end or at the start of a race, you were assisted, and you're not just hitting a flat, old school kind of fell style shoe, flat shoe on the end of a race. So you're just not punished for wearing a cushioned rocker shoe.
Yeah, you're not losing out.
Yeah, and the grip patterns that we use, or the traction patterns that we use, are really good. So if you hit a bit of mud, you can still get that protection on the mud and the rough stuff. And then like I said, the traditional end of a fell race, of a half-mile road into the pub or wherever it is, you're still not gonna suffer too much. So yeah, that's kind of where Scott running started. And the Super Track, like I said, was a key product for the UK specifically because it had that mix of cushion and traction as well.
Which I guess kind of leads us sort of nicely onto like the R&D that you put into shoes. So like the RC that's on the table now is the more stripped back version, but when that first came out, that won quite a lot of awards for being very innovative and different to the norm in fell and mountain shoes. Yeah, for sure. And again, it's that mix of cushioning and traction. You don't want to lose out. You don't want to do long races and feel as though you're not going to be protected. So trying to get the cushioning right, but the traction pattern in the right layout to give you the most protection left and right and forwards and backwards. So yeah, for the Super Track RC1, it's kind of still the same. The traction pattern is in a circle, radial traction we call it, so that it means if you're off camber and going uphill, downhill and everything in between, you're still going to get a little bit of protection against slip, and it all comes from the ball of the foot, so the heaviest part of the foot lands, and then you get traction left, right and up and down. And I find that it kind of, you land and it's like a little bit of a little movement, and then you find the traction, and then you set off. And the first version of it, the only difference was that the lugs, there was a few more of them, but they were also a little bit closer together. So on the second version, and you're talking about R&D, the first version was out for nearly 3 years, I think, before we changed it. And generally you'll find that with Scott, we don't change the shoes very often if they're working. But what we did find was that we just needed a bit more space for the soft ground. So there's now more space for mud and for clearance and things like that.
and also cut down on the lugs at the back, so you just get more braking power from those kind of bigger lugs at the back of the shoe.
Yeah.
And saved a bit of weight by cutting out the middle lugs. There was little tiny middle lugs on the old version of it, and you know, you save a little bit of weight by just cutting those out. But if you had the first version, the second version's pretty similar.
I was worried that it was going to change loads, and it didn't, which was nice when it came out.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, like, you don't want to change too much if something's working, but the tweaks that were made, especially in the upper, you know, they worked on it for 2 years. And I know we talk about it when I come in and talk about new shoes.
Yeah.
You know, you're pretty confident that.
Yeah, if you put time into something with Scott, it's generally going to be bob on.
Yeah, and like I say, the upper was the main thing, so changing from kind of a standard mesh to a Scholler upper. Scholler's a third-party company, but what it does give you is some kind of moisture protection. So DWR on the outside, so you kind of shed those puddles that you might skip through. Mm-hmm. Once you get them saturated, they're wet, but the puddles you skip through can kind of drain off a little bit on the outside. And then, although it's a black fabric, it acts like a white fabric. Mm-hmm. Within the makeup of the fabric itself, it reflects the kind of UV rather than absorbing it. So there's lots gone into this upper to make it, you know, wide enough at the front but secure enough to stop you from moving around too much in it.
Yeah, they're a cool shoe. If you've not tried them, they're really nice. I've worn them lots, had lots of pairs.
Yeah,
I think everyone here has.
Yeah, me too. Like, it's my kind of go-to shoe, so I'll, you know, get lots of shoes, and generally I'll fall back into these ones for most of my racing. And you know, it might be that something comes along that's a bit more kind of fell orientated and stuff like that. Or a bit more mud orientated, but the Supertrac RC is still kind of a really good all-rounder for the UK kind of conditions. And
apart from the super extremes, it gets you most of the way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and hopefully we'll fill a bit of that gap.
Yeah,
the extremes of weather that we get shortly. But at the minute, you know, this is the one that I'm using as my workhorse. And the upper, the material in the upper just lasts forever, doesn't it? The lugs and midsole go long before the upper looks like it's been used. They're pretty bulletproof for that. Yeah, for sure. And black and yellow is our racing colourway. Mm-hmm. So you'll see that within bike, within run especially. And if there's an athlete team like there is at Accelerate, generally black and yellow from head to toe is what you'll see. So quite distinctive, but still not kind of a ridiculous colour. Quite cool.
We think so.
Yeah.
So I guess as well as the R&D side, you're quite a sustainable brand.
Yeah.
Kind of in a few ways. So from your head offices in the European head offices.
Yeah.
To you've got new offices now in the UK, haven't you?
New offices in the UK. And you know, Harvey, you went out to the offices in Switzerland, and
it's pretty futuristic.
Yeah. So you know, baffles on the outside that move depending on how much sunlight there is. So if there's loads, it cools the building down by closing, and if it's cold, it opens and lets the sunlight
the heat
in
through the building as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it circulates it, so there's no heating, there's no air conditioning in the office. And anyone who's been to Switzerland in the summer, it's still warm and it remains cool. But yeah, you know, everything around the brand. So whether it's, you know, not using kind of harmful DWR coatings on my products, like 98% of our products now are using PFC free DWRs. You
were PFC free and waterproof quite a while ago, weren't you? Because I've got some that are a few years old now that were.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, a lot of brands have been doing this for a long time and never really shouted about it. And I think it's something we do need to, you know, say more if we're doing it. We need to kind of, and we are trying to do that. So we've got a thing called Resource by Scott. So
beat me to it.
So like any information, any kind of deeper dives people want to do on the sustainability at Scott, you can do that. And you know, there's customer services teams in the UK and abroad where you ask a question, it'll get answered if it's not answered on that page and on that website. But generally we're doing everything we can to be sustainable. Whether it's, you know, certain products that we're kind of using completely recycled uppers or outsoles, or whether it's just a whole range. So, you know, all of our clothing has got recycled elements to it, and that's a big part of our business. So yeah, that's good. But also, you know, looking after people, whether it's in the factories or in the UK, in our offices, making sure people have got time to, you know, if they want to get exercise, or if they just want a bit of time away from the desk and, you know, de-stress, then they've got that time to be able to do that. And that's as important as some of the other stuff that we're trying to do as a kind of global business. Just making sure everyone's looked after is what we're trying to aim for.
Yeah.
And there's opportunities for everyone to kind of get out on bikes, or, you know, in the office in Switzerland, people go climbing on a lunchtime, or, you know, gyms in our office, and you know, all that kind of stuff just gears towards people just being a little bit happier, and yeah, hopefully that all works. But yeah, I've stuck around, so
yeah, I think
must
that's
be all right.
There's a lot of people in the Swiss offices when we're there who've been with the brand a really long time.
Yeah,
like
sure.
Your old person who was in your old role now design shoes.
Yeah,
and he must have been at the brand a really long time now.
Yeah, so I think he'd been there like 3 years before I'd started, and then moved out about a year before I started. So yeah, there is opportunities to do that kind of thing. But even within the UK, we've got people who've been there 20 plus years just in the UK office. So yeah, and we're all nice to each other more often than not. So yeah, it's quite a cool place to work, and like it sustains the brand in a good way. And yeah, if we can make changes to shoes and products, that's also, you know, top of the list of priorities, really.
Yeah. You mentioned that you kind of go about sustainability in a few different ways, and either making stuff last and really well made, or using recycled materials.
Yeah.
Something that's quite new for this series to explore, which I know Stu's talked about a lot on previous episodes.
Cool.
But you're potentially in quite a good place to
explain I'll be able to talk about it a bit more.
So it's
So yeah, for me it's kind of an everyday trainer. You can run in it, you can gym in it, you can walk to work in it.
Yeah.
You know, all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't say you can kind of bust your marathon PB in it, although I'm happy to be proven.
Yeah, no doubt someone has,
that.
but
but you know, it's not a carbon plated shoe. It's not got a super kind of aggressive geometry to it. It's something that should be worn every day in store or like at home. Nice soft EVA midsole, but 20% recycled material within the EVA.
Mm-hmm.
The outsole and upper are 100% recycled, including the laces, and then we use a recycled Ortholite insole in it as well. But it's an 8mm drop, super cushioned, comfortable knitted upper shoe, like I say, for everyday use. And if you're doing a bit of running, a bit of kind of CrossFit-y kind of stuff in the gym, I think it's the perfect shoe for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we're making in a few different colours, so we've got white, but black's kind of the coolest colour in the black and yellow colourways. And I think in the women's we've got
it's like a salmon.
Yeah, salmon kind of rose colour it's called, but it's not pink. It's a salmon kind of colour. And the fit's generous as well, so you know, when I eventually get a set of these, it'll be my recovery shoe probably. If I've done a race on the Sunday, my feet are a bit bashed up or a bit battered, then I'll probably get into a set of these for the next day.
Yeah.
I don't know what you've used them for.
Just wandering around at the minute. Yeah. They're just pretty comfy and soft and nice. Yeah.
But you know, if we can do this well with the upper materials being recycled and the lasts, and do all the things that we want it to do, then you'll probably see more of this kind of roll out within the rest of the range. And that's the Scott way. If something happens in RC or Resource, eventually you'll see it in the rest of the shoes that we make.
I think that's the balance, isn't it? It's like you're still a performance brand. It's still got to work and be good, because otherwise you then just making something that doesn't get used, which is no good to anyone. It
gets thrown away in no time at all. So yeah, but you know, like I say, sustainability is just something we've got to learn and get good at, and we're already
the right ways, and you're already a phenomenal brand at it.
Yeah, already pretty good at it, but it's not kind of being too shouty about one thing. It's about the whole business and the whole thing, and trying to make it all better. So yeah, the Resource kind of products you'll see. Anything Scott that's a Resource product, we'll have it on the labels, on the boxes, and like I say, on the website you can see all of the information about everything that's been happening over the last few years to get it going, really.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that kind of covers most things we wanted to talk about. Cool. Unless there's something you want to add from your side?
All good. Good. Happy to be here and happy to be on the podcast at last.
Yeah.
Been waiting for my invite for like quite some time. I can't believe it's taken this long to get on it. So yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Cool.
If anyone's got any questions, I'm sure Chris will be happy to answer them in the future.
Yes. We'll do part 2.
Part 2
with questions.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Nice one.